Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC, and Arrma did something kind of strange. I gotta admit, this is not something you typically see in RC, and that is they've got two trucks that are the exact same price, exact same scale, both 110 scale, two-wheel drive electric short course trucks. They've got the same electronics. From all intents and purposes, they almost kind of seem like they're the same vehicle, but they're not. And I wanted to talk about that because this is the Arrma Fury over here on the left. We got the Arrma Senton Boost over here on the right. Now you might wonder, like, what is going on? They've got two Arrmas, the same price, same scale. They look somewhat similar as well. But I want to talk about why you might want to buy one over the other, because it may be a little bit confusing to those of you who don't really follow this stuff, super closely like I do. But yeah, we're going to be talking about this. $170 for a two-wheel drive electric brushed short course truck, 10th scale. And it's kind of interesting because once you pull up the body, you kind of notice some differences. The Arrma Fury is a nameplate that's been around for a long time. Obviously, when you pull them off, they look quite a bit different. The Fury's basically been re-released in a new format. It is like an entry-level two-wheel drive brushed vehicle, and then the Senton Boost over here on the right is based off the 4x4. So they have a 4x4 Senton, and then a BLX version, which is their brushless edition, and it comes in both two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. So the Boost is the two-wheel drive version, but the cool thing about this is you can upgrade it to the four-wheel drive version. But should you buy this just because you can upgrade it? And I think it's a little bit trickier than you might expect. So look at this truck. The bodies are pretty similar. This one's a little bit more of a swoopy body, kind of got these fender flares and stuff. I think it's a little bit more aerodynamic. I actually think the performance on this body is slightly better than the traditional Senton short course truck body. Lexan on both is pretty similar. I don't think any one is really more durable than the other. The other interesting thing about the Fury is it does have like this body clipless system where you basically have the body clips here mounted into the shock tower, so you just kind of push these back and forth. You don't have to worry about losing them. On the Senton, you got kind of the traditional body clips, 4 body clips holding in place with tethers, so you won't lose them that way, but it is a little bit more work to get at, so that is a little bit of a design difference. Electronics wise, they do come with the same vehicle. Now my Senton Boost has actually been upgraded to the full-on 4x4 BLX version, so I got the brushless motor, the Spectrum electronics, all the stuff that comes on the normal 4x4, but that is not something that you have to do. It does normally come with the same Spectrum brush system, 14 turn, same radio comes on both, the SLT2 radio. So electronics wise, there's no difference. There's no reason to buy one over the other. Now, layout of the vehicle obviously is quite different. So the Fury has got their kind of more original style stuff that they were doing 10, 15 years ago, where they got the bottom mounting battery tray. I don't have the battery tray here with me, but you load in the battery from the bottom, super narrow. I think this truck's actually super light as well. It does feel a little bit lighter on its feet. Both of them are mid-motor. Here on the Fury, you can see the motor there in the back. And then here on the Senton Boost, you can see the motor over here, kind of in a traditional bathtub style chassis. So the chassis layout is totally different. This one's got the servo all the way in the front, kind of vertically mounted, and then the battery down the middle, and the motor you'll see there in the back. This one's got more of a normal style bathtub chassis. You got the motor, ESC and servo over here on the right hand side, and then the battery tray over here on the left hand side uses battery straps. This one just has a battery tray that plugs into space. Tire wise, they look very similar. Shock wise, they are both composite shocks. I think they're somewhat similar shocks. I don't know if they're exactly the same. They're colored a little bit differently, but they use the same, sort of preload clip style type of thing. Yeah, tires, in my opinion, are exactly the same. I couldn't really notice any difference, so they seem to be about the same traction-wise. Now, one thing different is that a four-wheel drive vehicle does have a little bit different suspension geometry from a built or out of the box two-wheel drive vehicle. So this one actually has much more of what you call kick up. So the front arms actually angle much more vertically. They're not vertical, but you know, it's probably somewhere in that 25 to 30 degree angle here in the front for the arms. Whereas a four-wheel drive, which is basically what the Senton Boost is based off of, it's got very flat front arms. So the front arms are barely tilted up at all, maybe 10, 15 degrees, 18 degrees at the most probably. So it's much more of a flat geometry here in the front. And reason for that is all four-wheel drive vehicles, because you got the front end kind of pulling the vehicle as well as the rear end pushing it, you can basically rely on that front end to kind of pull you around corners, where this is much more set up to be a little bit more driven from the rear. The front end's got to kind of absorb bumps, steer, all that kind of stuff, much more than the front wheels do have to do on the four-wheel drive. So this has been fully upgraded to the full-on BLX spec. You know, it has the adjustable turnbuckles, it's got the beefed up transmission, it's got the brushless system as well. So there are some differences, but I wanted to point that out. Now, in terms of the way they actually drive, again, it is quite different. This thing in two-wheel drive is a bit of a handful on anything except super high traction. So if you're on a carpet racetrack for some reason, if you're on the road, I think it drives pretty well. On dirt, it is a bit difficult to drive. It definitely was made to be a four-wheel drive vehicle first, and then what Arrma decided to do was basically remove the front end differential, the center drive shaft, the drive shafts out to the arms. So that is how they basically turned it into a less expensive two-wheel drive vehicle, but it's not really as effective on dirt in my opinion. It is much harder to drive on loose dirt, but on carpet, I actually think it drives a little bit better. I don't know if the suspension is a little bit stiffer or what, but it definitely carries more corner speed. The motor is much more forward than you can see over here on the Fury. The motor is a little bit more back, so you get a little bit more weight on the rear tires. I think it's a little bit better in loose dirt. You get a little bit better traction. On carpet, it's not bad because it is mid-motor. It's not a rear motor vehicle like a lot of two-wheel drive vehicles, so it's not bad on high traction surfaces. But if you're racing on carpet, I would definitely go with this one. I think it's a little bit easier to drive. Now this one, I think, actually flies through the air a little bit better. It's a little bit more neutral. I think it's at the attitude, the aerodynamics, whatever it is, maybe just because it's lighter as well. It does actually fly and handle on loose dirt a little bit better than the Senton. This one feels a little bit heavier. I assume it is actually heavier. There's just more stuff, more plastic, more parts and stuff like that than you do have on the Fury. But yeah, there is a difference in how it drives. Loose dirt, I would go with the Fury. Higher traction surfaces, I think the Senton can work. But then the one big advantage, obviously, of the Senton is you can upgrade to four-wheel drive. So if you want to upgrade the truck, this is the one that's going to have a higher ceiling. You can go brushless, you can go four-wheel drive, you can get all the special parts from the four-wheel drive version, put that in, but it is going to be a little bit pricier to get all those parts. I think the Fury actually handles just mild upgrades a little better. I think you can plug in a 2S brushless system. It'll hold up to that power very easily. The transmission is very stout on this thing. People run 3S even. I think you could even go that direction. So this thing is much more easily upgradable for a brushless power system, whereas this one, it does have a 48 pitch spur gear and pinion. You would want to go to the full-on BLX transmission if you want to put brushless power in that. I think that is a good idea. So it is more costly, I think, to get this up to brushless power, a little bit more speed. But the ceiling is higher. The more you kind of spend on this truck, the better you can make it have. This thing's kind of capped. It's always going to be two-wheel drive. You can put in pretty good power. There's not a whole lot else you can do with this. It's fairly simple in actually what the upgrades and modifications you can make. In terms of durability, I would say this is probably slightly more durable just because the transmission is more durable. This one in two-wheel drive, original box stock, I think the spur gear is not quite as durable. It's 48 pitch. It's got the finer teeth. Pinion, not quite as durable. But overall, they're both very durable vehicles. I don't think you'll have too many issues. They're almost unbreakable. As long as you set your gear mesh okay and you set your slipper okay, this one will hold up. This one is just got a massive transmission, like an inch wide gears on that thing that the motor is actually spinning. So it's kind of crazy. They both have slipper clutches, so you would want to set those up. One interesting thing is this truck is lower for some reason than this truck. The The chassis, I think, is lower on this thing, but the body mounts and stuff, you know, this one's got the big fender flares, so they were able to get the body super low to the ground. It looks much more race-ish on, I guess, through the air. You know, it probably carries a little bit lower center of gravity. The bodies are quite heavy for short course tracks, so it feels a little bit lower, it feels a little bit lighter. This one definitely feels heavier, a little bit more top heavy than the Fury. So what else is there to say? Value, there's the same price. Support and maintenance, they're the same size, you know, exactly the same. The, you know, parts availability, all that stuff is pretty much the same in my opinion. They're both from Arrma, so I don't think there's much difference there. Just the biggest difference is you can upgrade this. This I think is better out of the box. This one I don't think drives quite as well out of the box unless you're on carpet racing, but it has a much higher upgrade ceiling, whereas this one, you know, it does have a pretty easy upgrade ceiling just with the brushless power system, and I think you'll be fine there, but you're not a whole lot more you can do that other than change the electronics. So both of these different vehicles, I think there are actually some differences in how they actually drive, how they actually perform, why you might want to buy one over the other. But yeah, between the two, if you had to ask me, I kind of like the Fury a little bit better, I guess, because I'm not someone that's going to do a ton of modifications. Although I upgraded this to the full-on 4x4 BLX, that's not something I typically do. I think for most people that are just going to buy, you know, $170 car, just run it, have fun, this is going to be a great option. And then if you want to put in a cheap power system, you can probably get something under $100. You can throw that in, and it works pretty, you know, well out, you know, just with those mild upgrades. Whereas this, if you want to go brushless power, I do think you want to upgrade the transmission, the spur gear, the center, slipper, all that kind of stuff, if you want to get that brushless power. So anyways, hope that helped you out. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe buttons. Look for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.